The Blackstone Endless Side Quests. Loading complete.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blackstone Endless Side Quests. I am here today with my co-host Kimmer. How are you today there, Kimmer?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for joining me on our inaugural podcast. I'm looking forward to see what kind of fun stuff we can come up with.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, and thank you for having me as a co-host, man. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. I quite enjoy your podcast, the Double D. Is that the right name?
Yes,
Or it is. See, I knew I was paying attention, but I could not remember because I'm terrible with names. So I'm your host, Hanrold, and I am a more or less a retro gamer, but I've been in the geek scene for well over 30 years now. And so this podcast is just going to be us having some fun, talking about some geek culture, maybe even have a little bit of the classic geek one-on-one arguments that we have later on coming on. And so let's get on to it with a little bit of news. What do you got going on in the geek community? Anything that's hitting your buttons? Anything that's bringing you forward?
Yeah. So there's this new game that just came out. It's called Final Fantasy 16. I'm sure everyone has heard of the Final Fantasy
A little bit.
franchise. If you haven't, Final Fantasy is an RPG game where you usually run around, you meet a bunch of different people. There's usually special creatures called like Aeons or Espers or stuff like that. That's just the variety of names throughout the series. Um, and then there's like obviously fiends, and there's an enemy that you gotta try to overcome and beat. You know, a typical RPG game. Well, the new one just came out, Final Fantasy 16, and there's actually quite a bit of controversy over it, whether it's called a Final Fantasy game or not. Um, so I just wanted to like kind of, rant about that a little bit because it's a Final Fantasy game. It literally says Final Fantasy 16.
And ironically enough, when 7 came out, they had the same argument.
Like, it's just crazy to me. It's like, oh my God, the game is so much different. Like, did you want the same game as number one? Did you want the same pixelized? Well, I mean, I'm okay with it because I still love playing those games. You know what I mean? But like, that's just not the general audience. You know what I mean? But like, it's just if the games don't change, how can you be reinvested into a series?
Well, and the reason why it's survived so long is you look at the first, couple, and yes, they looked the same because of the limitations of the technology of the time. But in Final Fantasy IV, you had, like the aircraft carriers and stuff. In Final Fantasy V, you had the job system. In Final Fantasy VI, you had the multiple characters and a second world because the world, spoiler alert, gets destroyed. Yeah. 7, you have an entirely new system with new technology. You're now putting magic into your items, like the limit breaks, and every Final Fantasy has added something new to the franchise, whether you like it or not. And the hardcore fans all have, and I will honestly say this, that a lot of the Final Fantasy fans are some of the most toxic people because this game is the hard one and everybody else is crap. I got into an argument just the other week with somebody who loved Final Fantasy 9, and I don't care for it. It's not my favorite, but I was 18 when it came out. It wasn't targeted at me. As an adult, I realized it was targeted at a younger audience. It's the new generation of gamers that were coming up. So I don't like it, but he flipped out. And then you look at 16 and you look at the controversy, and I look at it as it's a return to form for Squaresoft because they're trying to tell a good story, which with 9 onward was when they focused more on graphics and the story fell to the wayside. So you look at this and I'm like, well, what's the controversy? Let the players play it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, oh well. That's the way I look at it.
Which is fair. I would push back and say that the storyline on 12 was actually really good. 10, the storyline, like, it always confused me, and honestly, in my opinion, it still confuses me, but it's still one of my favorite games, Final Fantasy X.
Well, I didn't like...
I understand it, but like, it just doesn't add up,
I didn't like 10 because the main character, not Yuna, but Titus, was incredibly flat. He was just a yes man going through the game. And that bothered me because you look at Squall, you look at Cloud, you look at Terra, you look at Cecil, from the previous iterations, they all had multiple layers to their characters. And then 10, not so much. 12, now I loved the story to 12. The problem I had with 12 is the unskippable cutscenes for 2 or 3 hours of just the tutorial. So it's not a game you can go back and play because you can't skip those cutscenes and make it. If it's interwoven where you're actually battling cutscene, that would make more sense. But it's like 2 or 3 hours and you're playing for probably half an hour of that. The rest of it's cutscene, which is beautiful animation, but it doesn't have a replay value like the other ones do.
No, definitely. But yeah, a lot of the controversy for 16 too is that it's a Devil May Cry game, which if I'm not mistaken, the Devil May Cry company or the people under whatever, they released or helped with just like battling mechanics, or kind of released some of the mechanics, or what's I don't know the actual like technological term for whatever they said, but they pretty much helped them for battle mechanics, just to kind of change the battle mechanics of the game, to make it something different and interesting, which I love. I love the battle mechanics of 16. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot better than 15, I would say, for fighting and all that stuff. But I haven't had a lot of love for the Final Fantasy series since 12. 13 was all right. 14 was the online one where you got to pay monthly. Like, wow. 15, it just wasn't it. 16, man, the story's there, the graphics are there, the fighting is there, everything is there. I will say though, like that it's kind of like 12. You can skip them. Obviously, you don't want to, but
right.
It's just a lot of cutscenes and story at the beginning, and I understand why they're trying to set the scene for a good game for sure. But I'm just sitting here like, I just want to slice some people up, and like, you can give me the story while I'm fighting,
right?
Not just give me a whole 30-minute cutscene. I'm like watching an anime, like.
Well, and that's one thing that I really wish that people would learn. I don't know if you've ever played it. It's a PlayStation 2 game. It's called Drakengard, and it's a hack and slash game. It takes place. It's by the same guy who did Automatica, or no? Oh gosh, what's it called? The one with 2B. Anyway, and apparently it takes place in the same world because they time jump like 1,000 years or 10,000 years or 20,000 years and stuff like that. But in Drakengard, you make a pact with a dragon to go and save your sister who's being sacrificed. And it's a hack and slash game. The gameplay itself is mediocre. I mean, it's a fun hack and slash game. It's kind of like God of War without all of the tricky mechanics. However, the story, when you're invested in it, is fantastic, and it's told in chunks. So you have your battles, you have your conversations and stuff like that. The battles do get a little weary over time, but it does have one of the hardest end game bosses I've ever fought. It's like how is this boss hard? It's so easy, and then you get the boss down to like 30% health, and then they go uber, and it's like, oh my god. I think I passed it the first time with like 3 hit points or something. That's all I had left. But the pacing of the game is really well done. And you look at a lot of the Colossus is one of them that has a really good pacing. A lot of the times the story takes the background, is one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan of Mass Effect, is because the story develops with you or without you. And when I mean that by that is, if you do all the side quests first, the story doesn't develop. Right. And then, or you can just do main storyline and ignore all the side quests. But going back to Final Fantasy, the problem that Square has had is that they don't mingle with the Enix side. Because if you've played any Enix games before it was Square Enix, the Enix team had the best storylines, but they were far behind in the graphics and the battle systems and all those kinds of things. And you would think that having merged with the company, that they would say, hey, let's write a really good story. And 15 is literally just a road trip. Cindy is by far and away the worst character in Final Fantasy, hands down. I hate her, cannot stand her. Final Fantasy 12 had some great characters. 13 is the only Final Fantasy where the sequels don't damage the original.
Yeah, X2 was pretty like it was good, but it wasn't. I didn't. Okay, it wasn't good. X2 wasn't
um,
good.
Final
I agree with
Fantasy
that.
Final Fantasy 7 was good when they were doing side stories like Dirge of Cerberus and stuff like that. As soon as they started retconning prior to the events, and those events now mess up the game, it doesn't flow right. And while I have not had a chance to play the remake, I'm hoping they rectified those plot hole stories and stuff like that. I honestly don't know. But I mean, Dirge of Cerberus made sense because Vincent was a character you don't know very well. You just know that he used to work for Shinra, and that's it.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe next time we'll have a whole discussion on the Final Fantasy, and we'll do a really deep dive into it. But other than the controversy, like, what are the reviews? Because everybody I've talked to says they either love the game or they hate it. Like, is it one of those games that where you either get to pick it up and love it, or is it one of those games where you hate it? I haven't had a chance to play it, so
I think so. I was gonna say from just the online reading in podcasts I listen to in videos, it seems like you either love it or you don't. It's just one of those in between.
gotcha.
Like personally, I love it so far. I'm enjoying it. Uh, like I said, my only gripe on it is the kind of beginning part cutscenes, and you're just kind of sitting there for a while, kind of watching a
Right.
movie. That's the only thing I have to gripe on. But at the same time, I'm not gonna like gripe on it because it is literally uh, setting such a perfect story, which I know it's gonna be amazing once I actually fully dive into it. I'm only a couple hours into the game, but
Right.
that's all I got for Final Fantasy right now, honestly.
Okay. Well, I'm a PC player. I work on PC. I do a lot of. I work in the industry of the internet. So I haven't played a console since PlayStation 3. So I've missed out on the Legends of Zeldas. I've missed out on the God of Wars and the exclusives and stuff. So I will defer to you when it comes to those kinds of things. I'm hoping that 16 gets released sooner than 2 years, like 15 did on
Right.
PC. But we'll see what happens with that. With any luck, this one was designed with PC in mind, and just it'll be 6 months, maybe a year. I'll get a chance to give it a shout and look at it. So my question to you, and this is not me trying to say PC Master Race, is where do you find the most comfort gaming?
Most comfort?
Yeah,
Um, that's a good question because I would say currently the most comfort I have is just kind of booting up my PS5, just hopping in a game real quick and then hopping off, just because of how busy my life has been lately.
right.
Um, but I would say like if I'm not super busy with like a bunch of crazy stuff going on, it's just a normal work week. I work, I come home, whatever. Uh, I would definitely say right here at my gaming desk because I have everything right here, everything at my disposal. I can launch up my Switch if I want. I can launch up my PS5 if I want. I have my computer that has a ton of games.
Right.
So I would say there's definitely two different answers to that question for sure. So
Which actually is the correct answer because everyone, when you're gaming, you either have your comfort game or your comfort system. And for most gamers, it's the comfort game. So I like, for example, just touch on Final Fantasy again. I have 4 copies of Final Fantasy 6.
fuck yeah.
So I have the SNES one, I have the DS one, I have the original PC release, and I have the Pixel remaster.
Oh hell yeah.
It is my all-time favorite game, and whenever I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to play, load it right up. Doesn't matter which system I have.
Yeah, for me, I didn't fully play through 6. Um, spoiler, I know I didn't fully play it. Spoiler, spoiler.
Sacrilege.
Um, I think what happened was is just like, um, I was just a kid and I just lost my system, I think, I
Oh
don't
yeah.
really remember what happened, but um yeah, I've never fully played through it. So,
Well, then I highly recommend when you have a chance, pick up the Pixel Remaster on Steam.
okay.
You get all the battle
How
music
much is that
stuff.
going for, do you know?
Last I looked, it was between $20 and $30 Canadian because I'm from Canada. So
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that. Probably not. I don't know that. I know the difference isn't too crazy. Okay. No, yeah, I definitely need to check it out.
yeah, the Pixel remasters are so well done. I'm thoroughly impressed with them. But on there, you guys are probably wondering what's on the screen there. I have had it up the entire time, and this is a little segment I'm going to call Two Fate. Now I do this on TikTok. Well, I say I do this on TikTok. I'm going to do this on TikTok, where I normally take a coin and any topic, and I flip it, and I decide, heads I defend, tails I attack, on any topic. But Kimber here wanted to talk about how One Piece is the greatest anime of all time.
Yes, I do.
And so I'm taking the negative response. I don't actually hate One Piece, so a lot of what I'm going to say is not personal opinion. I'm just trying to square off on the negative side of debate. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't hate it. I'm one of those people where if you like your thing, you like your thing, right? So
Right.
before I go get hate comments, just do keep in mind that I'm literally just doing this for the segment. So Kimmer's going to take the positive, I'm going to take the negative, and I'm going to let you start because you're the one who's calling it the greatest anime of all time.
Okay, let me my little notes is loading right now. So I'm just I had to pull up my little notes and my little receipt, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like if you gotta call something the greatest, you gotta come with receipts. You gotta
Gotta back it up. Yep.
gotta back it up. I can't just be like, One Piece is the greatest because it's the greatest. Just kind of sounds stupid. No. So yeah, in my opinion, One Piece is the greatest anime of all time. And I think what we'll do is kind of go back and forth. I'm
Yep.
not gonna shoot it all at once, and then because who knows what I'll say at the beginning, I'll forget something, and blah 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 blah.
Point counterpoint.
I will say though, the length is not why it's the greatest. It's in my opinion, it's just the story. The story you get with One Piece, like I'll watch I watch some videos online sometimes of how the best it explains, and it really does start with a kid in a barrel that floating whatever gets picked up, and then boom, he's beating people up left and right. He's gaining crew members and gaining friends that aren't even supposed to be his friends. You know what I mean? He has, spoiler who hasn't watched the first episode, but he literally becomes friends with the Marine. You know what I mean? Like that's literally the first people hunting pirates, And then you just go through this entire story of just like everything, you know what I mean? Like it's not like Naruto where it's it just takes place in
It's just a boy's journey, right?
it's just a boy's journey. It's like this is everyone's journey. Like you feel like it's not just Luffy as a main character. You feel like every one of the Straw Hats is the main character, and that you get your own story with each character. I feel like, and that's not even like with the main Straw Hats either. I would even say for like every other like side character or anything, you get backstories with them that you fall in love with and stuff like that. So I would definitely say for the story, and we'll start with this for sure, it makes it by far the best. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna start with the story aspect. Most animes now when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, most animes had 26 episodes a season, usually 2 seasons, so you got 50 plus episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now most animes that are really good or 12 or 13 episodes.
Unfortunately.
Right, because they're compacting the season and making it, there's less fillers. So I'm not going to shade on One Piece for fillers because it's been running for so long. You can't run that long and never have fillers. Never, never, never. However, I've only watched the first 3 or 5 episodes, and I could not get into it because the story I found unappealing. So I went and looked and like, okay, is it worth it to get into it? Because everyone's like, oh, it's great, it's great, it's great. The first good arc by most fans is 30 to 50 episodes in the story. Which means that I have to watch a minimum of 10 to 15 hours for it to get good. So the story might be good, but getting there, is it really worth the time to put into it? Right?
Yeah, no. That's
and good storytelling should be, yes, it might start off slow, but within the first 3 or 5 episodes, if there's nothing hooking you, then you're never going to follow it, even if it's the greatest anime of all time. So my point is, if it's so good, why does it take so long to get there? Now, if you have over 1,000 episodes, which they do, you're going to have some amazing stories in there, because there's no way a show runs that long with having shitty stories the entire time.
Right.
But when I was asking a friend of mine who's been following One Piece since the beginning, he used to download it off of like Winamax and LimeWire back in like the late 90s. Like
the
OG. And he's like, the best arc is like 250 episodes in. I am not watching 250 episodes to get to the best part.
Right.
Like that to me as an anime fan who has a family and job and all that stuff, that seems like a little much. Right? So pacing is an issue. And it's not like Dragon Ball where you can fast forward episodes and miss nothing.
Right.
Which which I would not call the greatest anime of all time, but I would give it the title of most influential anime of all time.
I'll agree with that. I can agree with the Dragon Ball one for sure.
Yeah.
But I do want to kind of push back on that, just kind of give new perspective, even for viewers too, who are trying to decide which side they want to join on. Because if you guys want to have this discussion too, go ahead, discuss in the comments too. We will try to discuss with you as much as we can. That's what we want to do. So
open for discussion, open for debate. Just no toxicity and no hate, please.
No toxicity, no hate. We're not going to discredit your guys' opinions or anything. I personally love hearing everyone's different opinions, because then it creates different ones for me. So that's so
agreed.
I will push back. And you were talking about the pacing and time. One thing I considered and thought about is that, like you said, and I'm not trying to, no offense, but you're little in the older anime group in the 80s, 90s.
Oh,
boomer.
Not a boomer. I'm a Zennial.
Then the pacing back then, you had to have something on every week. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it was a little different. They had to stretch the episodes out a little more, because they had to have people come, or they're just going to forget about it. There was no social media. There was no nothing. It was all just commercials and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so they kind of had to push arcs out and stuff like that. And you can see that in Bleach for sure.
Oh yeah.
How half of that is filler or whatever it is. I will say for One Piece, even though some of it is filler, somehow it ends up connecting into the story again. I will say that just as a short little, but I would just say, because the older time, it was just you had to have something on every week in that time slot, no matter what. If not, you're gonna get it filled with someone else, and you're just never gonna be an anime show. You're not gonna be. And now, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say you're not wrong. But if you look at the other longer running series, so Rurouni Kenshin, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, of the same era. Now, Dragon Ball Z is comparable to One Piece because they're both shonen. So
Hmm.
they were both featured in Shonen Jump. Dragon Ball Z started the formula. But I would argue, like, even if you go to, like, say, Inuyasha, which started right around the same time that One Piece did. Now, granted, it only ran 140 episodes. It tried to keep the story going. The problem is that Rumika Takahashi doesn't know how to stop a story and start a new one with the same characters, which so that one became very fatiguey very quickly.
Hmm.
But the first couple of episodes made you want to watch. So even if you had filler, it didn't matter. So Bleach is notorious for filler. And I would argue that the first 80 odd episodes, right up until the Soul Society arc ends, is fantastic. Like, if you just stop right there, it's an amazing anime.
Amazing.
After that, it's like 100 episodes of filler, and it's just brutal. But when they did for Dragon Ball, they did Kai, where they condensed it, and it seems to do a lot better. So the condensing is happening. The thing I would argue with One Piece is that it stayed to that formula and hasn't evolved with it. If that makes any kind of sense.
No, that does. That does. And no, that actually makes a lot of sense because no matter what season it is, One Piece is coming out. And I guess it kind of has to do with the continuation of the manga too. Like a lot of these other shows that are coming out, the mangas are ending in like 120 chapters,
Right.
130 chapters, some of the lot of newer stuff because like you said, people have in this generation have shorter attention spans, I feel like. They just want to watch something and it needs to be like this
Mhm.
or they're just going to turn it off. You know what I
Well,
mean?
not only
And
that
you don't have
too. I
to
mean,
put
there's.
thought. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say there was also the backlash of TV stations losing audience because they ran a show for too long. So now they're too quick to not continue anime. Because there's a lot of animes that need a second season or a third season or something, and they're just not getting it. And then other series like one of my animes I'm going to talk about later, Devil's a Part Timer, it went 7 years without a second season, and everyone's like, "Where's the second season? Where's the second season?" Right? So, and yet it got continued. So I mean, there's always the give and take. But the fans very much dictate the pace of an anime, and I think One Piece now is such a legacy that nobody wants it to go. Because for the last 3 years, I've been hearing, "Oh, One Piece is ending. We're in the final arc.
Right.
When does it end?"
Um, I will say I don't know what Oda meant, but he said I think last year that he was going into the final saga. I don't usually a saga is three, right?
Mhm.
I feel like so in my personal opinion, three means three more crewmates or three more islands before the final arc, like the actual final arc, like
Right.
Laugh Tale, whatever it is, or the final war, whatever the final arc is to like for them to become the king of pirates. That's just my opinion. So I think there's four like super major arcs left or whatever like that that could take a while. But then again, I don't know. Oda said he didn't even want to continue One Piece. You know what I mean? I think he wanted it to end after Town. It was like 100 episodes or something like that. He wanted to end it, but like he had an audience. He had a fan base where he's like, I can continue this. And then what was it? 6 years ago, he said he wanted to be done in 5 years. So it's like, uh, I don't think Oda knows when he wants to be done,
Yeah.
and if it sucks, I feel it because we want it to end too. I feel like because we want him to get the One Piece, but we also don't want it to end because we fell in love with this anime
Yep.
that is just so good. And then like you watch episode 1, 1999 graphics or whatever year it was, and then you watch the newest episode that dropped July, I think it was 24th, 2023, and you're like, holy shit, the animation difference. It's like,
Yep. And unlike Naruto, they haven't gone with multiple animation studios. Because
yes.
Naruto has some of the best choreographed fights and best animation, and then other ones you're like, Where the hell did yeah, like the pain fight was, pardon the pun, but painful to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy. It's because it's one of the most iconic ones. I feel like, um, other
Yep.
than their last fight, the Sasuke versus Naruto. But I think another reason why I would say One Piece is the greatest is the world building. I think it's called world building, and like the world building in One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
So like in other anime, I'm just gonna continue the narrative to Naruto, just because it's been out the same
It's one of your generation's the big three.
facts. So for Naruto, you really didn't have much world building. You had what was going inside the Hidden Leaf Village, and then oh my god, something happened in Tagara. We need to go save him, and then they'd run over. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or whatever happens in the Sand Village. See, in One Piece, it's like, bro, they go to this island, and then something's else happening at another island that's literally life changing for them, and then another one's happening. All these different pieces connecting together, and it's like, I guess that fits into that story aspect too, where it all just connects together, and it's like, it just makes you feel like there's so much more than just Luffy as a main character, and
Right.
like, it like makes you feel like, you're actually there. You're like, holy shit, well, this is going down here, and this is going to affect this people here, and then you're wait, what's going to affect this person? How is that going to affect? And then you're just like, I don't know, it's questions and questions.
Well, and that's one of the appealing things of One Piece is that it does have world building. Now, as I openly admitted, I haven't watched very much of it. Having said that, when you have 1,000 episodes to tell a story, if you can't build a world, what are you doing? Right? So, I mean, even if you look at Naruto, which is multi-hundred episodes, you got Naruto, which is like 200, Shippuden, which is like 270, I think, or something. So call it 500 episodes. They were able to show you the in-depths of that world if you cut out the filler. We're not counting filler at all.
Okay.
If you cut out the filler, they show you the in-depths of that world and that society of, the ninja nations.
Mm-hmm.
It does not delve into the outside world, which is kind of fascinating, but that's a lot of time to dive into it and rehash a lot of the same things, because anybody who's watched Naruto from start to finish knows, oh, he's gonna do this again. Oh, now it's an evolved version of this. It's an evolved version of this. It's an evolved version of this, right? Mm-hmm. Which is very much the Dragon Ball formula. But the difference is that it's understood from the original OG Dragon Ball from the early 80s that Goku is a fighter through and through, even before we found out that he was an alien. He was a fighter through and through, and he was a genius at figuring out how to fight. So for that character, it made sense. It's ridiculous to the extremes they've gone to now, but whatever.
Yeah.
Naruto doesn't get to showcase his genius until he learns it 3/4 of the way through the series. You root for the bullied underdog because he's the bullied underdog, but he doesn't get to show his genius until way later. It's literally the pain fight where you actually see, oh wow, this guy is actually really smart. He's just not academic.
Right.
Whereas One Piece, from what I saw, Luffy hits this mental threshold and stays there. Now, like I said, I've only seen a couple of episodes out of 1,000, so I could be really wrong. But that's what it felt like to me, is once he reached, his late teens, I guess he's 19 or something?
Like 19 or 20 in the anime, 22, right, somewhere around there.
He hits that level, and other than getting more powerful, he himself, like his personality, doesn't change. Now, I could be wrong, because like I said, I haven't seen it. But that's how it feels like to me whenever I see clips of it and all that kind of other stuff. The other pirates look like they have character depth and stuff, and they have growth and things. But Luffy himself is kind of the focal point and linchpin because he feels like he's never going to change. because that's who he is, which
Right.
in a short run makes a lot of sense because that's the character you know and love. But over that many episodes, seems like a little bit of a lost opportunity to grow his story. Now, you said that the Straw Hats all have their own individual stories, they all grow and stuff like that. And from what I have seen and clips I've seen, seem to really support that. But when you're the main character, it shouldn't be able for you to be written out of the show and the show still to be okay.
No, I guess you're right.
So
I I was I guess I have to agree with you. His mental, it doesn't really change because he's just like
he's Luffy.
he's Luffy. He's gonna just go in there, beat your ass. You're not gonna hurt his friends. That's just kind of his mentality, you know. And to an extent, that's really good. I feel like, but then I guess you're right to an extent. Then though, like he needs to be able to think smarter and not just jump in like Naruto and Goku would.
Right.
But like at the end of the series, they would be like, I guess not much Goku, but at least Naruto. He would at least think about before fighting, like, what am I gonna? How should I do this?
Yeah.
You
His character in Boruto is very evolved and I like it, but Boruto as an anime is awful.
The Boruto manga is definitely better.
I-
Definitely say that.
I need to subscribe and read that.
Read the manga because it is 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better.
Now,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
no, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say with One Piece, the thing I like about it over the big three, and I use that loosely because I don't subscribe to that. I understand why it's a thing. Whatever.
Right.
The reason why I think it's the best of the big three is because death is permanent.
Mm,
So when a character dies in One Piece, they stay dead.
they're dead. They don't come via.
There's only one instance of that in Naruto. Oh no, sorry, two instances in Naruto that were actually super well told and tragic as fuck. One of them, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But going back to the story pacing, I'm gonna digress to another anime for a second. So when you go doing story pacing, look at Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, there's a lot of controversy, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of people who love it, a lot of people who hate it. Not what I'm talking about. If you look at the character of Major Hughes, okay, in Brotherhood. Now, spoiler warning for you guys who haven't seen it. Maybe audio this part here. Just skip this. When Hughes is killed in Brotherhood, it's episode 10. It's episode 10.
It's quick.
You don't care.
That.
You don't care.
No.
In the original run, because they actually added him, they did filler by adding to the story of things that he wish he could have put in the manga to enhance it. And he dies on like episode 40, I think.
Yeah,
And
40.
2 or 43 or something.
Yeah, I think it was 42. I think I remember
Yeah.
it vividly. Crying my.
And as a fan, you're just like, holy shit. Because like even the Nina dog thing is really like it's stretched out over time. In Brotherhood, it's condensed. So you don't care as much. Right?
Yeah, I
and
need a dog or walking a fine line there. Don't make me cry now.
The problem is that the manga was nowhere near done, and the original Full Metal Alchemist run caught up so quickly that it was a great story, and then the last third of the series it falls off the rails because it's all made up. And then the movie they did was terrible. And then they're like, okay, well, it was so beloved. Let's bring it back now the manga's done and actually do it. And the cool thing I like about it, this little tidbit story, is the last chapter of the manga was released the last day or the same day as the last episode of the anime. So even if you weren't reading the manga, everybody found out the ending on the same day.
That's really cool.
I thought that was really neat.
That's really cool. I think that's what they're trying to do for One Piece. I think.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get all three caught up. So they're trying to get English dub, sub, and manga all three caught up at the exact same time. And
it's an undertaking, but they really need to put it on hiatus. They need to
Yeah.
take a season off. The problem I had was like when I was watching Naruto, for example, is you get an episode 50 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
And one episode is like 3 chapters, and 2 chapters were released a month. So, I mean, you can see where the filler started to come in. This is one of the reasons why I love Gintama, which is another long-running series that should have actually passed One Piece, except they ended it before. Because if One Piece had ended 6 years ago when he was talking about it, or 10 years ago when he was talking about it, Gintama would have surpassed it. Because I think Gintama at the time was like 700 episodes or something. And Gintama is like, we're going off the rails, we're doing filler, we know we're doing it, and we're telling you we know we're doing filler, but we're going to make it fun and hilarious. It is the only self-aware anime that is a long-running series that actually makes fun of the fact that they're doing filler.
I've never watched Gintama, so I might have to watch that now. Like actually.
Gintama is, think of it like Ranma 1/2, but in a samurai era. It is really good. And then when they get to the wacky stuff, like they break the fourth wall all the time later on in the series. It starts off more or less like any shonen anime would, and they just have a blast with it. I think they finally realized, you know what, fuck it, we know where we are.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna go with comedy, and you're gonna break the fourth wall, that's the way to do it. The best anime example I can give you in a condensed series is Exile Saga. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I don't think I have. I don't think
So that anime came out in the end of 99, early 2000, because they actually make fun of the millennial New Year's in one of the episodes. And the main character, Exile, is voiced by Sailor Moon's voice actor, who voiced the Japanese Usagi.
Cool.
And they're like, we need you to talk really fast. And so she does. And they're like, oh, she's talking too fast. So they actually added lines to her script because of how fast she talks.
Oh, that's kinda cool.
The English dub is awful. The script doesn't make sense with what it is. And in 26 episodes, I think it had the record for most parodies, because it's a slapstick comedy. It's not meant to be serious at all. I think they had 270 parodies or Easter egg references or whatever in 26 episodes.
Jesus.
It's really funny. It's directed by the same guy who did Cowboy Bebop, the original anime.
Oh, okay.
Watanabe, forget his first name. But going back to One Piece, like if you're gonna do filler, make it fun. Having said that, at 1,000 episodes, I really wonder if they're able to keep that up. Like as a fan of One Piece, let me ask you this as an actual anime fan, not just for the sake of the argument here.
Okay.
With One Piece in its length, do you ever feel like if you go back and rewatch an arc or something like that, does it feel lackluster, or does it feel fulfilling like it did the first time? Or you go, oh, I remember this, like the nostalgic fulfillment, not necessarily the comedy because you know what's coming, but all of the filler stuff, all of the non story main, does that feel like it's worth your time watching, or is it as awful as the frog arc in Naruto where you just want to punch somebody?
I would say 90% of it, yes.
Okay.
Some of it, you're not gonna catch me ever watching again. I'm gonna tell you that much. No, I will say though, there is some parts where I'm like, I definitely go back and I watch and I'm like, I start crying again because I'm like, dude, this moment was like so real. Or like, honestly, another thing is like going back and rewatching it just to kind of remind you of like what happened and how it connects to the future, or I guess I can't say future, but present arc or whatever. Because
Right.
like, you like, or like in like manga, like sometimes I'll read like the newest chapter. So like I'll read a manga and then like I'll go back rewatch and I'm like, wait, this connects. And like so, I would definitely say 90% of it. It's definitely it's fulfilling to go back rewatch it because you're like, wow, like this is why I love one. At least as a One Piece fan, I'm like, wow, this is why I love One Piece, is because of this arc right here
Right.
or this. I don't want to like call your friend out, but for him to say the first good arc was like 200
No,
in or
the
whatever.
best arc.
Oh, the best arc was 200 in.
250 or something, I think.
I think I know what arc he's talking about, and I think that's the Water 7 arc. It is the best arc, but it's definitely not like it. I would say that the arcs before that are phenomenally good, but then you get to this arc, and there's a little bit of spoiler, but you finally see the characters evolve a little bit, so that's where it makes it to where that best arc, because then you get the like they obviously evolve and they get stronger like in those smaller arcs and stuff
Right.
like that, but you don't see crazy stuff that's happening like in this arc. I don't want to spoil it because I know some people are probably watching it or but like so I would say that the best arc, Water 7 for me, yes, just because of literally the entire everything going on. Every episode you're like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going
Right.
on? What's going on? What's going on? And then the other arcs, I would say like they're just worthwhile watching because they are super. In my opinion, honestly, I think pre-time skip One Piece is better than post-time piece time skip. Other than like current Wano, like I think that the pacing was way better in pre-time skip.
Right.
Obviously, the animation was a little bit worse. I think the story was better. The comedy was better. Then you get into post-time skip, and then like the very first arc was like kind of rushed. The second arc was, I feel like I know like it was in the manga, but I feel like that one was kind of rushed. And then you get the third arc, and then it was like super long for no reason, and then like it just didn't feel right. Like, but the other arcs are like they fleshed out perfectly pre-time
Right.
skip. I feel like, and it. I'm not recommending it, but it's an option because you're gonna you will miss a lot, but you'll understand the basics. And this is for
Right.
anyone who doesn't want to watch the full 1,000, but they do want to get a little bit caught up. What One Piece has done is they have gone and they actually made like review movies, kind of, where they'll have like an hour and 20 minutes of that entire arc of like the entire 60-minute or not 60 minutes 60 episode arc or 100 episode arc. They'll have like an hour 30-minute movie that you can watch, pretty much a recap of the entire thing. That way you can like, oh, I watched this, I can start at episode 61 or I can start at episode 100 in this or whatever. So if you guys are interested, you guys can go check that out and kind of, but I don't recommend it because you do miss a lot.
You lose a lot. Yeah.
You lose a lot. But
So
it is there.
final question for this little segment.
Okay.
What qualifications do you think of when you think of greatest of all time? Like, what 3 to 5 things would you measure to make it one of the greatest animes of all time, or the greatest anime of time?
I would definitely have to say story for sure.
Okay.
Like I brought up, fighting, like fight scenes, and just like the choreograph of fights. I feel like is very important, and I feel like they do fighting very well in One Piece. And then the third one, comedy. I feel like if you don't have comedy in an anime, and on almost anything, it's not gonna be good. And and obviously there's stuff that's out there that proves me that you can have serious movies or serious shows.
Yeah.
But like, I would say 95% of shows have an aspect of comedy, whether it's good or bad. And I just think that having comedy in a show, just kind of you kind of have to have it. You know what I mean?
Especially in a shonen.
Yes, especially in a shonen. So I would say those three is
Okay.
because like I feel like you can get away with graphics. Everyone's gonna have different graphics.
Even One Piece has different graphics.
Yeah, even One Piece has different graphics. Every episode, you don't know what you're getting. I I wouldn't say character development, because
1 sec.
character development is character development. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen. Hopefully, it's gonna happen no matter what. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, yeah, I would say those three things.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Sorry about that. I was interrupted by my family member. I mean, I agree. You have to have a good balance, especially in a shonen anime, because if you're all one thing and not another, it doesn't work. I mean, if you look at the comedy Dragon Ball filler episodes, they generally are pretty funny. They're ridiculous and they're stupid, but they're funny, right? Um, so when I'm looking at like the greatest of anime of all time, I look at three things. I always go by the rule of threes.
Okay.
How influential is it? Does it hold up after a set amount of time? Now, One Piece is not done, so I can't say does it hold up 20 years later, right? So for Cyberpunk, for example, like if you go back and watch the original Bubblegum Crisis and Crash from the 80s, or even the 90s version of Bubblegum Crisis, do they still hold up today? My opinion is yes. And the third and final one is, what did they influence outside of it? And that's the one that I think One Piece kind of falls down on, because Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, Gintama, Black Clover, Hunter x Hunter, they're all formulaic from the successful formula of Dragon Ball. And I think that's the one criteria that One Piece is missing. Now, having said that, the legacy of One Piece now with social media, with the very active fan community, like I know for a fact you could not go to a comic convention, anime convention, whatever, and not see a One Piece cosplay.
Right.
It's never going to happen, right?
It's gonna
So
happen always.
it's the same with like Final Fantasy. You're always going to see those kinds of things. So the influence is there on the broader spectrum of things, but has it influenced any other animes? And I cannot quantify that. I can't say this anime influenced that, right? Now, again, it's not over yet. And normally when it's influenced is when the anime's done and you move on, right?
Right.
So like, Fairy Tail, for example, another long-running anime that I actually haven't finished now that I think about it, has its ups and downs. Like the Zodiac arc is fucking atrocious. That is like probably the one of the worst arcs in recent anime, like the last 10 years. It's awful. But it did bring back the magic animes that are not isekais.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So
Yeah.
it's a poor example because there's not a lot of them, but that's the kind of influence that I mean, is now that it's done, it influenced that, right?
Now there's a lot of yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
For sure.
so I mean, it's an example, not the greatest one, but it is what it is. So that's pretty much. I don't know. Where do you think we sit on that? Got any other points or?
I think we can save some more discussions for the One Piece being the GOAT for later. Maybe we can bring in some call or something for a future podcast episode.
I would love to have an anime rumble. I would love to do that.
Bring in like 4 or 5 people, and we'll just go at it. Everyone just cussing their brains out, taking off heads.
This is not League of Legends.
Oh, sorry. Dang it. I thought this was the League Arena. My bad.
Now, speaking of League of Legends, we do both of us watch LCS. That's how we met. LCS, for those who don't know, is the North American League Championship Series, so professional gaming. I personally love esports. I think it's great. Growing up as a kid, I would have loved to have had that. When I found out that it was televised in Korea in the early 2000s, like, wow, I want to watch StarCraft in like on TV. That'd be awesome. So I mean, I love the esports scene. I love LCS. I know I talk a lot of shit, as you see in the Discord with the League Dad and the All In podcast guys. I do talk a lot of shit, but I really do enjoy watching it. I love seeing gamers who are actually really good and entertaining to watch on the stage and being competitive. I'm not a fan of shooters, but that's just because I'm not a fan of shooters in general. And then you get things like Overwatch, where it's really hard. The camera angles don't really flow well with the broadcast. So I'm kind of a, MOBA RTS kind of esports fan, but I don't know. Like, do you watch anything else other than League, or are you like strictly LCS?
I watch a little bit of the LPL.
So you're
A little bit
strictly
of
League.
LCK, strictly League. But like I'll watch sometimes. I'll watch Pokemon. Other than like traditional sports, I'll watch traditional sports. Um, but as like a game, like gaming professionally, just mainly League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I've just started getting into the Pokemon scene,
Oh
and
yeah,
so like I've only recently started watching like tournaments and stuff like that, and then had interest in that. Um, but for my entire life, it's just been League of Legends mainly, and like I've played other games. I've played CS:GO. I played other of the major games.
right.
I think most of us have, but like I didn't really follow the pro scene. Like I'd watch it. Sometimes it'd be like, oh, Astralis versus C9 on or something. I'll be like, oh, let's watch this because it's something to do.
Right.
Whatever. So, but I'd like follow League of Legends till the day I die. Like I was like, oh my god, I need to watch Cloud9 play. I'm in school. I'm like half headphone in. I'm all watching them on my phone in the back and stuff like that. And yeah, so yeah, just League of Legends for sure.
Yeah, just showing your age there, because I was long out of school before the game was even released.
Oh man.
And
Oh
yet,
man.
do you want to know? Do you want to know? Here's a story for you all. So how I got into LCS was I was getting a brand new motherboard and processor. Now the store that I go to honor their in-store product replacement, they will mount the heatsink and the CPU to the motherboard before you leave the store. It takes 10-15 minutes. Now, they used to have walls of all the latest TVs and stuff. And so I'm sitting in their home theater chair and I'm watching, and they're showing LCS. I had played League of Legends for like 2 weeks when it was, officially released, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is just a Warcraft ripoff, not knowing that it was based on Dota, which was based on the Warcraft 3 mod, or map or whatever it was. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and it was TSM versus Team Curse. And
what a throwback.
and so I'm watching, and they've got the audio on, and Riv is casting with Freak. And Riv goes, I just love this young player from Denmark. He's so good. He's always 2 steps ahead. He's one of the best pro league players we've ever had in the scene. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, and I ended up watching the whole game because the game finished, I don't know, about 2 minutes before my computer was ready. And I was like, shit, I got to go home. So I sped home. Now I live outside of the city, so it was a good 20 minutes, half hour. I got back about halfway through the next game because I didn't know about breaks and stuff like that. I'm watching it. I'm like, this is really neat. By the next week, I'd already started learning the champions who were meta at the time and all these things. And I'm like, fuck. But I fell in love with Bjergsen. And shout out to Bjergsen. Awesome career, man. Like, fantastic. He was just such a wonderful player to watch. And he reminded me of actual sports players who are, well, I shouldn't say actual sports players, but traditional sports players who are great ambassadors of what they do, plus are so good at what they do, it's effortless. So like if you think tennis, you think of Roger Federer, right? He just floats on the court. You think of, showing my age again, Jerry Rice as running back in the NFL. You think of Wayne Gretzky, all these guys who weren't the hardest working on, like, just as the visual check, but were so good at what they do, they made it look effortless. And then when they're on camera, they're polite, they're kind, they're they're not causing a scene, they're not causing drama, trying to get, people riled up and make all this money. And like, to me, those are the best players. And Bjergsen was that right from the get-go. And the following day when I watched it, they interviewed him, And I was like, wow, this is a really cool kid. I like him. And the more I've learned about him over the years, I'm like, that's esports in a nutshell. Like XQC and all these other guys, like nuts to them. Like they're just toxic people who don't get what they want. Wah, boo hoo. I'm out. Come for me in the comments if you don't like the fact that I like XQC. I think he's a jerk. So that's my personal opinion. I'm sticking to it. But you know, I love getting into those kinds of things as a gamer because growing up, gaming was such a taboo. Oh, you play video games? What an awful kid. And now it's like everybody plays games. Games are accepted. You know, geek pop culture is accepted. Comics are accepted. You know, Marvel movies. Like as a kid, this is Candyland right now for me. Like my 10-year-old me inside is like super stoked because you get to do all these things. You get to explore all these worlds. Anime streaming. I used to buy my animes on VHS. They cost $40 in the 90s for 2 episodes. So
Wow.
when Neon Genesis Evangelion came out, I bought the first tape, loved it, continued buying it. Every 6 weeks they'd come up with a new tape. I had to wait 6 weeks.
Wow. That's
It was
crazy.
it was $39 plus tax. So it was like $41. And you got 2 episodes. And they're 20 minutes long because they're cut for TV. So you get 40 minutes of content. It spanned 13 VHS tapes. And for those of you who watched the original Neon Genesis Evangelion, you can imagine how irate I was with the last 2 episodes. My brother and I were watching it, expecting it to get better and go somewhere, and it didn't. After those episodes, it took me a long time to go back and rewatch it and then watch the movies that were supposed to fix it, which they didn't. And then I have not, out of spite, gone back and rewatched the remake. Just because I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. PTSD.
Oh yeah. But kids, if you're complaining about your Crunchyroll subscription being $20, pay it.
No,
Because
for real.
for real, like I at the early 2000s, I used to order Chinese bootleg DVDs to get my anime because I get whole seasons for $30 instead of one DVD with 4 episodes for $25.
I remember doing that. I remember doing that.
Shout out to Anime Nation, we miss you, we love you.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Anime Nation. Now, before we go, is there anything else you want to add? Anything you want to shout out for next week? Oh, there's the thing. What do you guys want us to argue about next week?
Yeah,
that's
actually what I was just gonna shoot out.
I think we should do a video game next week, or do you want to keep it an anime segment?
You know, let's do video game. Let's do what we start at the beginning. Let's do Final Fantasy. If anyone wants us to tackle a specific game of Final Fantasy or a specific topic in Final Fantasy, please comment below. If there's multiple of different ones,
we'll pick and choose.
We will pick and choose and decide together. And then if you guys have any like cool videos you guys want to send us and want us to react to, whether it's a gaming clip of someone making an insane shot in Call of Duty, or it's just something funny in League of Legends, or something funny in whatever, I don't even care.
Pentakill, Karth Assault.
Real worth. Yeah, it could literally be something real life of like someone's freaking farting on a duck or something. I don't know. Send me that. But,
no. Send us some gaming videos, or even send in some questions. You can reach me at Hanrold on pretty much everything. I do stream on Twitch at Hanrold_Blackstone. And so feel free to reach out. My Twitter handle's at Hanrold. That's where the podcast is going to go as well. I'm not going to create separate accounts and have all that stuff. So first of all, I just want to say, Kimmer, thank you very much for being here. Second of all, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you as first we feast from the Hot Ones. Roll the red carpet. I want you to tell everyone where we can find you, where they can follow you, where we can listen to the Double D podcast, all those kinds of things. So please, all you.
Yeah. So kind of like you, same. It's at Kimmer, K1MM3RR. I believe my Twitter only has 1 R, and it's just because, or 2 R's. I think, what was it? My Instagram only has 1 R because the 2 R's was taken for some reason or something like that.
I will post those below just so we
K1
can confirm.
MM3R,
Yep.
3RR. But yeah, like you said, I host a Double T podcast where we literally talk about anything. Literally, I don't know, it's just chaos over there. And then I also started a new series called Who Is? We have 3 episodes up, and another episode is about to release here soon. So if you guys want to go check that out, it's also on my YouTube at Kimmer, K1MM3RR.
Now, I don't have a Discord server set up yet. This is the first episode, so this is all brand new to us. I will be setting one up at